love the Ravens as much as we do, then smash that subscribe button and stay locked in with Flock News for all the drama updates and excitement all season long. Something is brewing in Baltimore, and I mean the kind of rumor that could shake the entire AFC North to its core. Sources close to the league are whispering, yes, whispering, that Dan Campbell, the beloved and fiery former head coach of the Detroit Lions, is making a stunning leap to become the new head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. That's right, folks. The same Dan Campbell who transformed the Lions into contenders, who inspired the city with his passion, grit, and press conference. Onliners could now be donning purple and black. It's a move that on the surface seems straight out of a football fairy tale. But when you dig deeper, the puzzle pieces start to fit just a little too well. The Ravens, known for their hard-nosed identity, have long prided themselves on toughness, physicality, and resilience. Sound familiar? That's basically the Dan Campbell starter pack. While nothing has been confirmed officially, yet the buzz has grown so loud in certain NFL circles that insiders are calling it imminent. So what could have pushed this shockwave of a decision forward? Let's unpack it piece by piece, because this isn't just about a coaching change, it's about a seismic shift in football culture. Let's start with the timeline, which seems almost too perfect to be a coincidence. Dan Campbell, after leading the Detroit Lions to one of their most successful seasons in decades, reportedly took time off for family considerations and personal reflection. At the time, fans and analysts believed it was a well-deserved breather after grinding out a near-miraculous turnaround season. But then came the murmurs. The idea that Campbell wasn't stepping back permanently, but rather stepping sideways. People began to notice subtle signs and unusual number of visits to Baltimore reported in flight trackers. Anonymous sources speaking of deep conversations between Campbell and top Ravens executives, and even photos circulating online. Unconfirmed, of course, of someone looking very much like Campbell entering the Ravens training facility late at night. Coincidence maybe, but maybe not. And it just so happens that John Harbaugh, the long-standing head coach of the Ravens, has been unusually quiet this offseason. No big pressers, no confirmations about the team's future direction. Just silence. And silence in the NFL is rarely a good sign. If this rumor is real, it would mean the end of an era in Baltimore, but the start of a wild new chapter under Campbell's command. Now let's talk football philosophy, because if there's one thing Ravens fans cherish, it's identity. The Ravens aren't just a team, they're a way of life in Baltimore. Smash-mouth defense, bruising offense, relentless energy. And if there's one coach in the league who embodies all of that in one living, breathing package, it's Dan Campbell. His time in Detroit was defined by a refusal to back down even in the darkest moments. He didn't just coach the Lions, he gave them a soul. The guy literally cried during his introductory press conference because of how much he cared. He talked about biting kneecaps and then went out and built a team that looked like it actually might. That kind of passion resonates in a city like Baltimore, where blue-collar toughness and loyalty to the team run deep. The more you think about it, the more it starts to feel like a match made in football heaven. And for Ravens management, this isn't just about tactics. It's about sending a message. Bringing in Dan Campbell would signal to players, fans, and the entire league that the Ravens are going all in on a bold, aggressive, and unfiltered football identity. That alone makes this rumor worth watching. And here's the wild part: if you've been listening carefully to player interviews, especially those coming out of Detroit, there have been hints. Subtle but real. Some Lions players have spoken about how leadership changes everything and how they hope Dan finds what he's looking for. Others have posted cryptic Instagram stories, black and white photos of Campbell accompanied by nothing but a raven emoji. That's right, a raven. Again, this could all be pure coincidence, or it could be the kind of soft goodbye that players give when they already know something the public doesn't. You don't just leave a team like Detroit after building something that's special unless you believe in something even bigger. And Baltimore offers that. A championship caliber roster, a city that breathes football, and a front office willing to make bold moves. We're not saying it's happening for sure, but we are saying if it does happen, a lot of these dots will suddenly connect, and you'll look back at this moment and realize, yeah, we saw this coming, or at least we should have. Because when players speak in whispers and post in symbols, it usually means the real story is just under the surface. But hold on, we also need to look at the Harbaugh angle. John Harbaugh is not just some placeholder coach. He's a Super Bowl winner, a culture builder, a legacy figure in Baltimore. So the idea that the Ravens would just part ways with him, that's huge, monumental even, but this is the NFL and loyalty only goes so far when titles are on the line. There have been quiet reports, nothing confirmed, that ownership has grown restless. The Ravens, for all their consistency, haven't made the Super Bowl since 2012. And with Lamar Jackson in his prime, with one of the most dangerous defenses in the league, the window is open, but maybe not for long. You can bet there's pressure at the top to capitalize now. Bringing in Dan Campbell could be seen as the jolt the franchise needs, someone who can motivate, inspire, and maybe shake things up just enough to get over that championship hump. It wouldn't be the first time a successful coach was let go in favor of a fresh voice. Harbaugh himself once replaced Brian Billick under similar circumstances. History has a funny way of repeating itself in this league. Let's not ignore the elephant in the room. What would this mean for the Ravens offense? Because Campbell, wow, known for his smash mouth mentality, also leaned heavily on innovation in Detroit, especially with his offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. Now this is where things get really spicy. Some insiders are saying that if Campbell comes to Baltimore, he might bring a piece of Detroit with him. No, not Ben Johnson directly, though that would be wild, but at least part of that offensive philosophy. Imagine blending Lamar Jackson's dynamic running ability with some of the creative play calling that made the Lions such a threat last season. Think play action rollouts, dual threat misdirection, and red zone efficiency, unlike anything Baltimore has seen in years. It's a tantalizing possibility, and you can bet Lamar would have a voice in this decision. He wants to win. He wants the offense to evolve. And maybe, just maybe, Dan Campbell is the coach who can unlock the full scope of Lamar's potential. That's the dream scenario floating in the minds of some analysts. A new era where Baltimore is still tough as nails, but also wildly unpredictable. And if you're thinking this all sounds too perfect, you're not alone. That's part of what makes this rumor so intoxicating, because it feels like the kind of thing that should happen. Campbell in Baltimore just feels right. The grit, the energy, the raw emotion, it's everything the Ravens stand for. But the NFL is also a business, and for this move to happen, the Ravens would need to make one of the biggest coaching decisions in franchise history. Not just firing a coach, but replacing a legend. Still, we've seen stranger things happen. Just look at what happened in New England or how quickly the Seahawks pivoted after Pete Carroll. Dynasties don't crumble overnight. They get nudged just slightly until the foundation gives way. Maybe that's what's happening here. A slow, quiet handover. One coach stepping aside, another stepping in. And in the middle of it all, a team. On the verge of something special. Whether that something becomes reality depends on whether this whisper of a rumor turns into a full-blown announcement. And trust me, if that press conference ever gets scheduled in Baltimore, it's gonna be standing room only. Now let's get into the personal angle. Dan Campbell isn't just a coach, he's a personality, a mindset, almost a mythic figure in the modern NFL. His players adore him. His staff will walk through walls for him. Even his opponents respect him. So if he's really coming to Baltimore, the impact goes far beyond the playbook. It means the entire Ravens organization could undergo a transformation in how it operates, how it trains, even how it recruits. Free agents love playing for coaches like Campbell. Draft picks dream of landing in cultures like the one he creates. Suddenly, Baltimore becomes more than just a tough team. It becomes a destination, a place where players feel seen, heard, and challenged. That's a big deal in today's NFL, where locker room culture can make or break a season. Campbell brings authenticity. He doesn't do politics, he does football. And if he's really about to become the face of the Ravens, then buckle up, because things in the AFC North are about to get violent fast and incredibly entertaining. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. The biggest question hanging in the air right now is, why would Dan Campbell leave Detroit? It's a fair question, and one that cuts straight to the heart of this rumor. Because let's not forget, Campbell wasn't fired. He didn't fall short. He led the Lions to one of their best seasons in franchise history, earning league-wide respect and solidifying his place as one of the most beloved coaches in football. But sometimes in this league, it's not about what you've built. It's about where you can go next. Sources close to the situation have hinted that despite Campbell's success, there were behind-the-scenes frustrations in Detroit. Conflicts with upper management, disagreements over roster decisions, maybe even some dissatisfaction with the team's long-term direction. Nothing public, of course, but the kind of internal friction that's enough to make a passionate coach start looking elsewhere. And when a franchise like Baltimore calls, one with a storied defense, a top-tier quarterback, and a ready tone-out culture, you listen. You take the call. And if that call feels like destiny, like a place where you can finally win it all, you just might pack your bags and go. That's the heart of this rumor. Not a fall from grace, but a leap toward greatness. Let's pivot to the Ravens locker room, because this potential move would hit every corner of that space like a thunderclap. Think about it, players who've been molded by the Harbaugh era for years suddenly finding themselves under the direction of Dan biting kneecaps Campbell. That's not just a coaching change, that's a personality transplant. And it's one that could be either incredibly galvanizing or dangerously volatile depending on the reaction inside that room. Veterans like Roquan Smith, Marlon Humphrey, and Ronnie Stanley are known to be outspoken leaders. You can bet they'll have thoughts about this. And if Campbell is indeed coming in, he'll need to win over the locker room fast. But if he does win them over, watch out. Because a team as talented as Ravens, inspired by a new voice with a chip on their shoulder and a point to prove that's a nightmare for the rest of the league. Campbell has a way of turning emotion into execution. It's not just hype, it's results. And if he walks through that locker room door, you can expect every practice, every meeting, every play to carry a new kind of fire. Behind the scenes, though, you better believe there are politics in play. NFL coaching hires don't just happen over a handshake and a phone call. There are agents, ownership groups, legal language contracts to dissolve buyouts, to negotiate. And with a name as big as Campbell, we're talking about a financial commitment that reflects both belief and urgency. If the Ravens are seriously moving in this direction, they're not doing it on a whim. They're doing it because they've evaluated everything on and off the field and decided that this is the right time for boldness. Word is Steve Bisciotti, the Ravens owner, has been quietly pushing for a next generation energy in the building. Not just a younger roster, but a more emotionally intelligent coaching staff. Someone who connects deeply with players. Campbell fits that mold perfectly. There are even whispers that some key front office members have already flown to meet with him personally. Somewhere orthodox, somewhere quiet, somewhere where deals get done behind closed doors. Again, no public confirmation. But in the NFL, the biggest moves often happen when no one's looking. And right now, every whisper seems to be pointing to one name. And what about the Detroit side of things? If this rumor ends up being true, what happens to the team that Campbell helped rebuild from the ground up? It would be a heartbreaking twist for Lions fans who've endured decades of disappointment and finally believed they'd found a guy. But football doesn't pause for sentiment. There's already chatter that Detroit's front office has been preparing for this possibility. Some reports suggest they've quietly begun conversations with potential replacements, internal and external. Ben Johnson, the offensive mastermind who worked alongside Campbell, could be a candidate to step up. Others are floating names like Aaron Glenn or even external dark horses like Jim Caldwell returning for redemption. The point is, Detroit may not be caught off guard. As much as this would hurt, they may have seen the writing on the wall. And if Campbell does leave, it'll be with a legacy already cemented. He took a team known for losing and made them believe. That doesn't disappear. But Detroit's heartbreak could become Baltimore's jackpot. One coach's departure could ignite another city's dreams. And that's how the NFL carousel spins, fast, ruthless, and always with a twist. Let's look at how this potential move would affect the rest of the league. Because a Dan Campbell Ravens team doesn't just shake things up internally, it sends ripple effects across the AFC and beyond. First off, let's talk rivalries. A fiery personality like Campbell going up against Mike Tomlin's Steelers, that's box office TV. Joe Burrow and the Bengals trying to outscore a revitalized Ravens offense, that's playoff drama waiting to happen. And don't forget the Browns, who would now be facing a Ravens team that's tougher, grittier, and even more unpredictable. But it goes beyond the division. Across the NFL, teams would start recalibrating how they scout, how they prep for games, and how they view Baltimore. Campbell isn't just another coach, he's a culture, a movement. His presence changes the tone, the tempo, and the expectations. Suddenly, the Ravens become a team no one wants to face in December. A team that doesn't just play hard, they play angry. And in January, when everything's on the line, that kind of energy is lethal. That's the fear other teams would start to feel. And in a league that thrives on fear, that's a competitive edge you can't put a price on. From a media perspective, this would be gold. Pure content heaven. Every press conference would become must-watch TV. Every sideline reaction, every halftime speech, every quote would be dissected, clipped, memed, and shared. Campbell doesn't do bland. He doesn't do vague. He speaks from the gut. And whether he's hyping up his players or calling out mistakes, fans hang on his every word. Now imagine that spotlight inside a franchise as storied as Baltimore, ESPN, NFL Network Talk Radio. They'd eat it up. The Ravens would go from a team respected for consistency to a team obsessed over for charisma. Jerseys would fly off the shelves. Ticket demand would skyrocket. Young fans, old fans, casual fans, they'd all want a piece of the Dan Campbell experience. And you can be sure the Ravens marketing department is already imagining the campaign, "The Flock Just Got Fiercer." It's more than just football. It's entertainment. And in today's NFL, where brand and buzz are nearly as important as wins and losses, Campbell brings both in spades. That's part of what makes this rumor so believable. It's not just smart football. It's smart business. And let's not forget one last angle legacy, because for Dan Campbell, this wouldn't just be a career move, it would be a shot at immortality. He's already proven he can rebuild. He's already earned respect. But what he doesn't have yet is a championship, a ring, a place in the history books. And Baltimore gives him a chance to chase that legacy in a real immediate way. This isn't a 5-year plan. This is a team that can win now. If Campbell takes the helm and delivers a title, he's no longer just a cult hero. He's an icon. And for the Ravens, who've always thrived on toughness and tradition, it would be the next great chapter. Louis Reed Flacco and Campbell. It's not a fantasy. It's a possibility. A rumor, yes, a whisper, but one with weight. One that feels like it's gaining momentum every hour. And maybe, just maybe, the football gods are cooking something special in Baltimore. So stay tuned, because if Dan Campbell really does become the next head coach of the Ravens, it won't just be a story. It'll be a revolution. And there you have it. Rumor or reality fiction or future, Dan Campbell to the Ravens is the kind of NFL whisper that makes your heart beat faster. It's bold, it's risky, it's loud, and it might just be happening. Whether you're a diehard Ravens fan, a loyal Lions supporter, or just a football junkie living for the offseason, chaos, this is the story to watch. Because moves like this, they don't come around often. And when they do, they change everything. Stay close, keep your eyes on the headlines, and remember, you heard it here first. The kneecap-biting warrior might be flying with the flock very soon. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.